I'll stay and live in purgatory with my clerk friends. I can't hear you.
Right. Because I'm still here. Because there's only really the one item on the agenda, and I'm declaring a conflict on it. I mean, you're gonna lose me for the whole meeting.
Oh, right. Me too. I think I have a conflict too.
Let's just make sure that we have quorum just at the table to start the meeting. And, yeah.
So you just do the consent agenda, which is really nothing, and then I'll declare a conflict on item 1, and then
we're gonna have a motion to refer the responses to inquiry to council, so that we won't have to go through those. We don't have all the necessary staff to respond to questions on them, so we'll just move that motion. We'll refer those to council so that we have enough staff, or the relevant staff, around to answer those questions, and then we can move on to item 1. And then, of course, if you can't vote on it, you don't have to stick around. That's just fine.
Mr. Chair, I am advised that our live streams are now live. So whenever you have quorum and would like to proceed with the meeting, you may.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone who's still tuned in out in cyberspace. If you're wondering why we're still here, we still have one item on the CPSC agenda to deal with before adjourning for the evening, which I'm sure everybody is quite keen to do. So as of right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
that's quorum.
That's quorum. All right. Well, the others will join us as we go. We'll rip through the opening remarks. Hello, there we are. Councillor Eglai, wonderful. Sorry, Councillor Alchantiri, wonderful. Do we have Councillor Eglai? He's not back with us yet.
We have a long trip to go to the bathroom here in Kinburn. We have to go outside. So
You did a wonderful job getting back very quickly. Well, it's no longer morning anymore, so I guess we'll dispose with the greetings here. Welcome to the Community and Protective Services Committee meeting of June 16th. We'll call the meeting to order. It's being held remotely through Zoom. Has been quite apparent over the course of the day and all of the muting issues that we've had. Please note that the meeting is also being streamed on the Ottawa City Council YouTube channel. Every committee member, whether they choose to use this or not, will be provided the opportunity to ask questions or comment on each item. Committee members will be called on first, and I don't think anybody else will be joining us. Members are also reminded to submit any motions, visual supports, or declarations of interest in writing to the coordinator at their earliest convenience. I think everybody knows we went through this earlier today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land, and the city of Ottawa honors the people and the land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The city of Ottawa honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We have received no regrets, and we can call the order. I am here. Councillor Eglai, Vice Chair, is here. Councillor Deans is here. I can see Councillor Dudas. I feel like this is romper room. We can see Councillor El Shantiri. Councillor Fleury is also here. Councillor Kavanaugh is here. Councillor Kitts will be joining us in just a moment. Councillor McKenney is here. Councillor Mian, I believe, will be joining us as well. And Councillor Cherney is here. So thank you. Je vous remercie de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. Après notre réunion contrainte extraordinaire avec le comité d'urbanisme, nous procédons maintenant à la réunion ordinaire prévue du comité de services communautaires et de protection. So I'd like to briefly highlight one of the reports before us today, an update on the first phase of the much anticipated new Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, which is now rolling out across Ontario. Ce nouveau système, qui est entièrement financé par les gouvernements fédéral et provincial, vise à augmenter la qualité, l'accessibilité, l'inclusivité et l'aspect abordable des services d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants. It's expected to have significant positive impacts for Ottawa residents, especially those who face various systemic barriers, especially women and families who have been disproportionately affected throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. This will include reduced childcare fees for families and increased compensation for workers who take care of our children. Thanks to city staff in the childcare sector for mobilizing so quickly to begin this program delivery, especially given the short time frame to implement over the summer months. L'équipe des services de l'enfance présentera son plan pour mettre en œuvre la première étape de ce nouveau programme de transformation et de soutenir le secteur tout au long de cette transition. Now let's move on to today's agenda. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Deans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, Councillor Diane Deans, declare a potential deemed pecuniary interest on the report from the Community and Social Services Department entitled Phase 1 Implementation of the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare System as my daughter works for Children's Services in an area that may potentially be impacted by Council's decision on this matter.
As we do have a motion to move the other items off to council, you may dismiss yourself up prior to the vote. Any other?
If you all.
Okay, take care, Councillor. Do we have any further declarations of interest? Seeing none. Are the minutes of the meeting of May 19th, 2022 confirmed?
Okay.
Wonderful. We've received various responses to inquiries. CPS 0122 on families in hotels and motels, CPS 0222 booking system scenario reservations, CPS 0522 mitigation strategies to address ambulance level 0 events, OCC 2203 impact to the truck convoy on cities, residents and businesses, OCC 2204 tickets issued in the red zone during the convoy occupation. At this time, I'd ask the clerk to place upon the screen the motion to refer these responses to council. I think that everybody understands why we're doing this evening. We want to ensure that we have the proper staff available, and at this hour, that's very difficult to do. Once we rise to council, staff will be available to answer these questions, so we can skip to the therefore be it resolved. So therefore be it resolved that the remaining Community and Protective Services Committee refer these remaining inquiry responses to council to be listed as communications on the June 22nd, 2022 City Council agenda. Is this item carried? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Do appreciate your help with that. Okay, item number 1, which is our only item, and this is that Council and Community Protection Service Committee recommend 4 recommendations that Jason Sabre, who is on hand to present a PowerPoint presentation. We have Amanda Quantz joining us today. Amanda has shared a written submission which can be found in the Council SharePoint site and on the shared drive. I do not believe that we have any motions on this at this time. If you do have a motion, if you'd like to put it on the floor now, please go ahead. Seeing none. And sorry, we do have a second item, which is a status update, Community and Protective Services Committee inquiries and motions for the period ending June 6th. So before going to item 1, is item 2 received?
Received.
Wonderful. Okay, and information previously distributed, use of delegated authority during 2021 by the Recreation, Cultural and Facility Services Department as set out in Schedule E of Bylaw 2020-360 as amended.
Received.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll turn it over to Jason Sabre now for the presentation on item number 1, which is now the sole item on our agenda. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chair and members of the Community and Protective Services Committee. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et membres du Comité de Services Communautaires et de Protection. I am Jason Sabre, Director of Children's Services, and it's my pleasure to be bringing forward an overview of the Phase 1 implementation plan for the new Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. This is obviously a very exciting moment for our city, where childcare is being recognized by all levels of government as essential for the importance it brings to the success of children and families, and how it also plays a key role in social and economic recovery from the prolonged COVID-19 pandemic. Families across our city, especially working mothers and those who face disproportionate impacts and carry added family responsibilities, have had to make difficult decisions due to the pandemic and the already high cost of childcare. These issues were exacerbated during the pandemic and continue with rising costs and economic uncertainty. Access to affordable childcare is vital to the COVID-19 pandemic response and will benefit families, children, community social well-being, and economic recovery in Ottawa. So today I will highlight the positive first steps in how the new Canada-wide system will change lives and increase affordability for families this year. This historic and transformational change is happening because of the multi-level government cooperation. And as the consolidated municipal service manager for the City of Ottawa, Children's Services is thrilled to be working together with the provincial government to realize these significant changes for our city. To echo Chair Luloff's sentiments from earlier, I also wanted to thank staff and the sector who will need to work extremely hard and fast under tight provincial timelines to implement this new Canada-wide system to bring these positive impacts to families. Children's Services will continue to prioritize this new program and the associated supports while working closely with the province and our sector partners on collectively gaining clarity and building all aspects of this transformative system. So I'll now provide members of this committee with information on the province's phased approach for implementation of the Canada-wide system, as well as the significant positive impacts for Ottawa families, and a high-level overview of the program requirements and staff recommendations for council approval. We can go to the next slide, please. So first, just some added context for this new system. As consolidated municipal service manager, Children's Services is responsible for the planning and management of the licensed childcare and early learning programs and services for the City of Ottawa to ensure services are responsive to the needs of families and aligned to the provincial vision. Over the past few years, with the support of council and working together with the sector, we have established a strong foundation that we are ready for this exciting transformational work ahead. Some of these important milestones leading up to the new Canada-wide system include in 2019, Council approving the Child Care and Early Years Service System Plan, which established 10 strategic priorities to unite as a sector and act as our guide for system improvements benefiting children and families. In June 2021, Council reaffirmed the City of Ottawa's support for building a Canada-wide system and approved the updated Children's Services Work Plan to reflect the COVID-19 pandemic response and recovery actions. Children's Services has also continued to proactively adapt our service delivery approach to meeting the evolving needs and changing landscape of childcare and early years services to better serve our community. As a result of all this foundational work, Children's Services is well positioned to welcome a new system of change within a phased approach, which will advance our own strategic priorities while supporting social and economic prosperity, as well as residents who face various systematic barriers, especially women and families who have been disproportionately affected throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. Today, staff are asking the Community and Protective Services Committee recommend Council to, 1, receive this report for information on the province's phased approach for program changes and implementation of the Canada-wide learning and childcare system, as well as the significant positive impacts for Ottawa families. 2, approve the funding policy statement and delegate the authority to myself, the Director of Children's Services, to manage and administer the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system and associated budgets as detailed in this report. 3, approve the creation of up to 15 full-time equivalent positions for which $1.2 million of funding is available from this Canada-wide early learning system. And 4, direct the City of Ottawa's municipal childcare centers to opt in and adjust user fees accordingly under the new Canada-wide system. Next slide, please. So I'll try to provide a quick overview of the provincial system. So on March 28th, the province and federal government reached an agreement on the Canada-wide system for Ontario. Funding will be used to build and leverage the success of Ontario's existing early learning and childcare system by increasing quality, accessibility, affordability, and inclusivity in the early learning and childcare towards achieving the objectives of providing a 25% reduction retroactive to April 1st, 2022, building towards a 50% reduction in average parental cost by the end of the calendar year, and reaching an average of parent fees of $10 a day by 2025-2026 for licensed childcare spaces. Province has also stated they are going to be creating 86,000 new high quality affordable licensed childcare spaces, predominantly through not-for-profit licensed childcare. They will be addressing barriers to provide inclusive childcare and valuing the early childhood workforce and providing them with training and development opportunities. The province is taking a phased approach to implementing the new system with a focus on the immediate objectives of affordability for families and system stability in phase 1 in 2022, before moving on to addressing the objectives of increasing accessibility and inclusion over the longer term. In this initial rollout in the first phases, 60 million has been allocated to the City of Ottawa in 2022 to address 3 main allocation categories, that being the fee reduction for families, the workforce compensation, and then the program delivery costs for municipalities to implement and administer these new programs. Staff continue to assess the implications of this new system and are seeking clarity from the province where required. It is important to note that not all information or implications are known at this time related to the phase 1 or future provincial phases. Outside of the significant positive impacts for Ottawa families, there are some concerns for council awareness regarding the municipal contribution, a fee subsidy expenditure cap, the workforce compensation, and the overall provincial allocations that have been highlighted in the report. I will take a second to highlight the childcare workforce challenges. An experienced, stable workforce supported through ongoing training, fair wages, and working conditions is critical to ensuring quality childcare and early years services. With the COVID-19 pandemic, childcare and early years workforce pressures have been exacerbated and in turn have affected families with program closures or limiting access to these essential supports. Childcare advocates note that the introduction of a workforce compensation funding and increasing compensation for low wage earners and establishing a wage floor will not be sufficient to address the current workforce challenges or to help with the provincial strategy to achieve system growth and increase access to high quality licensed childcare in Ontario. Additional investments are needed to assist with the several workforce challenges facing the sector, especially around retention, recruitment, and as well as salary and benefits. This would in turn support the workforce, families, and communities by having a strong childcare programs which positively contribute to the social well-being of Ottawa. Next slide, please. Children's Services has worked quickly to review and interpret the provincial guidelines and has prioritized the development of this new program to ensure families and registered childcare educators are supported in 2022. Under the new Canada-wide learning and childcare system, consolidated service managers are required to have a policy and a plan in place in accordance with the provincial guidelines for the intake and administration of funding to licensed childcare service providers that express interest in participating in this new system. While Children's Services is well positioned to welcome this new transformational program, prescribed provincial timelines for municipalities and service providers to implement are short within competing demands, with many still dealing with lingering impacts and stress of the prolonged pandemic. As a result of the short timelines for our sector to implement this new system, Children's Services will be streamlining the process and processing the objectives in stages to help facilitate quicker fee reductions for families, while also providing time for service providers to transition to the new funding parameters. This is vital given the economic impacts and rising costs due to inflation, making it more difficult on families. Depending on when a service provider applies and ultimately agrees to a contribution agreement with Children's Services, we are estimating that fee reductions and refunds to families will begin near the end of September and run through to December. Next slide, please. The Child Care and Early Years System Planning Advisory Group that provides advice and guidance on the planning, transformation, and management of the Child Care and Early Years System in Ottawa has received an update on this stage approach and supported the direction. A high-level estimated timeline of this new program include council approval, obviously, is the next step on Wednesday, June 22nd. We would then be launching the program and the application near the end of June or early July. We would then follow up with information and supports for the sector throughout July and August. And then because of the prescribed provincial deadline, there would be a deadline to submit that application by Thursday, September 1st. At the time of writing this report, there are many steps, processes, and supports for Children's Services to develop in addition to seeking additional information and clarity from the province. Supports to the sector will be key throughout the summer in assisting them with this new program, and ultimately ensuring families can benefit from this increased affordability. In the coming weeks and summer months, Children's Services is committed to supporting the sector and families through ongoing direct communications moving forward, as we continue to work collaboratively with the Child Care and Early Years System Planning Advisory Group and our community partners to ensure phase 1 actions are completed. Next slide, please. The City of Ottawa operates 10 licensed municipal childcare centers offering toddler and preschool spaces located across the city. The municipal childcare centers offer access to high quality, affordable, and responsive programming, prioritizing families who require a fee subsidy. By providing priority access to these families, it reduces poverty and gender inequalities and fosters a sense of belonging for families facing various barriers, such as new immigrants, sole support parents, families living with low income, and children with special needs. Municipal childcare centers are eligible for this Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, and opting into the program would ensure current families will see a fee reduction of up to 25%, retroactive to Friday, April 1st. And this includes an equivalent fee reduction for families receiving childcare fee subsidy who pay a parental contribution. The municipal childcare centers would need to apply and opt in through the same process as all other licensed service providers. And once the program receives approval, staff would have 30 days to adjust the user fees and provide the retroactive fee reductions to families. And staff are estimating the fee reductions and refunds to municipal childcare center families can begin near the end of September. Staff do not anticipate any service or significant financial implications associated with the implementation of phase 1. And as a result, and given the immediate increased affordability for families, staff recommend council direct the City of Ottawa's municipal childcare centers to opt in and adjust user fees accordingly. And we would, any future service adjustments or financial implications would be raised through either a subsequent report or through the city's budget process. Next slide, please. I do want to thank members of this committee and council as a whole for your unwavering support of the childcare sector and the critical supports and services provided to thousands of families across our city. My sincere appreciation for the hard work that Children's Services staff have been doing over the past 2 years with the pandemic response and support of essential services, and now mobilizing under very tight timelines to prepare for this historic Canada-wide program launch, which will greatly benefit families in Ottawa. This is a period of transition across the province for all of us, and my team is committed to ensuring the needs of families will always be at the forefront of our decision. I do want to thank the childcare workers and the early childcare educators and all the service providers. I want to recognize the essential work they provide, and families across Ottawa count on and rely on their safe childcare for their young families every day. And lastly, on behalf of the City of Ottawa, I'd like to thank the Child Care and Early Years System Planning Advisory Group, the Tableau Franca Fund, and the Indigenous Early Years Circle, and the design teams for their continued and valuable guidance on behalf of childcare sector and their needed support in building this Canada-wide system. By working together with our sector partners, we will respond and continue to improve services for the well-being of families and give children the best possible start in life. Next slide, please. So this does wrap up my quick overview of the phase 1 Canada-wide early learning and childcare system implementation for Ottawa. And obviously I'd be happy to take any questions from members of the committee.
Before we move on to questions to staff, we do have one delegation. Amanda, over to you for 5 minutes, please go ahead. And welcome. Thank you for sticking around for so long.
It's been a long day. I learned a lot about housing, which is super interesting and totally related, actually. Because where there are new developments, where there is new growth in our city, we also need to start thinking about expansion. The new this agreement between the federal government and the province of Ontario is huge. It is going to transform childcare. We want to make sure that that's done thoughtfully and carefully and well. The City of Ottawa is different than a lot of other municipalities because we are a direct operator of childcare. We do, like, there are municipal childcare centers. Not many municipalities continue to have that role, which goes back to the Second World War, right? None of our centers actually go back that far, but it's pretty neat. So the role that the city has in childcare to date has been one of waiting, like all governments have been doing, waiting for childcare to sort of appear. Although, you know, with the municipal role, providing childcare directly, Ottawa has stepped in and done more, which is excellent. So this program, reducing parent fees down to $10 a day, is going to be a huge change for families, for childcare, and it's a wonderful change. But yes, I am very glad that Jason Savarin brought up the point that the workforce is necessary. And unfortunately, there is no pay scale yet associated with childcare, and we know that there is a workforce crisis in childcare. There are not enough people who are trained and who are working in the field. And as the cost of childcare goes down, the demand for childcare will go up. Parents are going to choose childcare when they can afford it. They do choose childcare even when they can't afford it, right? People take out mortgages to be able to afford exorbitant childcare fees. So we know that demand is going to go up, and we know that expansion is going to happen next. So Childcare Now Ottawa, which I'm here representing today, is a group of parents and educators and allies and advocates. And we really want the city to step in and take a bigger role. And I hope that Children's Services feels up to the task because it's a big one, and we know that the city is best placed to do it. And that task is directing the expansion of childcare, not just waiting for childcare to expand on its own, not just approving applications that pop up, but using that system service plan for the early years to decide where expansion should happen and what population should be targeted. There's my child who is actually now in school age childcare, which brings me to another point that I hope council is aware in supporting the school boards. The Ottawa Carleton District School Board is a major provider of childcare here in Ottawa. Excuse me. And that childcare is not actually licensed, and licensing is a requirement for participation in the Canada-wide childcare and early years in childcare program, which means that currently the Ottawa Carleton District School Board is scrambling and working very hard to meet licensing requirements so that they can participate in this program and kindergarten children can see their fees reduced. This program, the $10 a day program and fee reduction, is not actually applicable to older children, just younger ones, but we're going to start with what we can, right? We're going to work with what we've got. So Childcare Now is calling on the city, Childcare Now Ottawa is calling on the city to direct expansion, deciding where and what populations will be targeted for childcare expansion. And we also think that planning should be part of new developments, right? When planning happens, where is childcare going? How is the city making sure new childcare deserts aren't created? The childcare, the system service plan does identify areas that are childcare deserts. When looking at childcare deserts and childcare across the city, both licensed, both licensed home-based childcare and licensed center-based childcare, we would also like the city to start looking at what childcare is for profit and what childcare is not for profit, because that not for profit childcare we know is better quality. And we need to identify areas that are for profit, that are primarily served by for-profit childcare, so that we can make sure expansion is matching the need, and we're not just seeing for-profit operators expanding in particular areas. Okay, so the process for expansion should be transparent, and we hope that the strategic planning group is hugely important, but we can involve more people when it comes to expansion. This should include many voices. We hope that we hear back from Children's Services about growth plan options, as was directed by a meeting back in November, I think, of 2021. We would like to call on council to set the principles for a growth strategy. Principles like prioritizing expansion in the not-for-profit sector. I wanted to note very quickly the wording in the agreement between the federal and provincial government, as Jason Sarin was saying, is predominantly not-for-profit. In Ottawa, we have a tradition of funding and supporting not-for-profit childcare. And I think that Ottawa needs to recommit to that. We want to see fees for all families in licensed childcare go down, but when we see expansion, let's make sure that it's good quality. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the time, and I've got a lot of words, so thank you for listening. And
okay.
Thank you also to Children's Services for all of the hard work. I know that this has been a stressful time.
As somebody with one child in childcare right now, and about to have two children in childcare, and I certainly appreciate your expertise and your delegation on this matter. We'll go over to Councillor McKinney. I'll turn the floor over to them.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Amanda. I actually had my hand up to ask the very questions that you were asking. I put it back up, so I'm kind of cheating the process here. But I am going to stay on. But I thank you for your submission. It's a very well thought out, very well detailed. And somebody who has sat on 2 childcare boards, chaired one in the past, you know, the idea that our problem today is expansion is a good problem. So. But it's one that we have to ensure that we are approaching in a very equitable way. And so I do thank you very much. And my next question is for staff.
Do you have any
Thanks.
further questions to the delegation?
No.
You may proceed.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. And thank you, Jason. I just want to start by saying that in the years that I've been working with Jason and his team, I've always felt that the sector is well considered, that we're in good hands, that and I think, you know, anytime I've had any back and forth with Jason or met with the sector with Jason and his team, it's always been very thoughtful, and you've moved us ahead as a city in a way that has not always been easy. Childcare doesn't fall completely within our domain, but today, like I say, we are to have you know, affordable, equitable, accessible childcare in our city just seems like it's like a dream, you know. Hopefully we can say that about housing one day, but here we are. And childcare is such a huge affordability issue for families and individuals. But I do, Jason, just wanted to ask, as Amanda brought up, you know, we will see some growth. We will definitely see growth. We'll need growth in the sector. We'll need growth in our services. And what is just if you could just walk us through what our strategy is for that growth that we see coming. Thanks.
Through the chair, and thank you, Councillor McKinney, for those comments. It does mean a lot to me to work with the sector collaboratively on many of these things. So I do appreciate the feedback. Where to start on growth? I mean, first and foremost, I do want to acknowledge and agree that we're all in agreement on this. That growth plan is an important priority for this sector, and you know, Councillor McKinney, on your sentiments too. It's because of the significant amount of work my team and our sector partners have done on all these other aspects, and what we will collectively build as part of this new system, that we are in a position that we can talk about growth and the realization of how essential these supports are for families and community well-being and the economy. So maybe just a bit of context with growth, just to kind of get my thought process here. But I did want to mention that, you know, since 2014, you know, in my time with Children's Services, we have seen some significant transformation each year, and we often have to prioritize new and emerging programs to ensure they align to the provincial direction, and to ensure we prioritize the items that have direct impacts on families. So this year, it will be no different. We will have to prioritize this phase 1 implementation. And, you know, I do know this sounds very good, but there is still a lot of work ahead of us to support the sector and get them on this program and get everyone set up. There is some significant work left, and it is going to be under some tight timelines to ensure families can see that increased affordability as soon as possible. I did want to highlight the work we've been doing with growth through the last few years as well, through the Journey Together initiative to increase the number of culturally relevant licensed childcare spaces. And there was also another community-based capital program, which has created over 400 licensed childcare spaces in the last couple of years. And this was in addition to the previous investments in growth in the sector, which has seen approximately 9,000 spaces created since 2013, which has been pretty much a 40% growth. And this was largely as a result of the province's schools first approach. They have a school first approach when they're building schools, they are including childcare in it, and that's where we've seen the most significant growth. At this point, kind of as I pointed out in the report, we have no information from the province on what their approach is going to be with growth. We have very little information on what the future phases will hold. So we do need to wait for this. I do need to see what their thinking is with the 86,000. They have told us they're going to consult with us over the summer to kind of talk about what Amanda was mentioning there, of like, where are the high needs? How are we going to do that? So there's a bit of consult work that we have to do with the province. We will use our service plan. We have some amazing details in there. We also are going to have some significant work to do with the workforce challenges to help with the growth aspects outside of the capital aspects. There's some significant work that has to be done to help the workforce. I have seen in other provinces where they're building capital and then not having the staff to actually make it operational. So there's some other priority items that we might have to think about as part of this. So once we know more on the information of the future phases and have completed phase one, growth is absolutely a priority. It was included in our service plan on increasing access. It will require time and resources, and it will require, the conversation today was really good too. Like, it'll require these cross-functional city departments working together. And I am, very happy about the addition of these 15 FTEs as well, because this will help with our overall capacity of building this entire system and growth being included. And we will consider all of this as part of our future work plans. So I hope that helps a little bit with some of your questions, Councillor.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I look forward to ongoing conversations and how we approach it. Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fleury, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to extend my thanks to Jason, the team, and the entire childcare sector. It's not been easy, and here we are at. We see a bright light here with the recent agreements. Jason, I don't want to throw cold water on this great news, but I do want to better understand what is presented. So a parent today that sees the slide and says, hey, I'm going to get lower fees and 25% and aim towards the $10. Would that apply if the childcare provider that I'm with does not opt in to the model?
Chair, through you and Councillor Fleury, again, I appreciate the comments. Everyone at this point is seeking a lot of clarity around this new program. That one is fairly straightforward. If the licensed provider does not opt in, then the parents would not see this affordability increase, which is why it's so important over the summer that we support people with the understanding of this program to really get in. And all I can really tell people is this is what I think providers are going to struggle with, is we only have phase one implementation, and really, to keep that simple, it is around like reducing fees by 25%. I'm finding operators are wanting to know, like, well, what's this going to mean in the future? And we don't have a lot of that information from the province. But to answer your specific question, if someone does opt out, then no, we wouldn't sign a contribution agreement with them, and they would not be getting, so families would not receive that. It's only licensed providers who opt into this system that will see these increased affordability.
You and I had a conversation, and you confirmed that the City of Ottawa childcare centers will lead by example and will opt in for all of our sites. What is your feeling like? What would be a good percentage point from the not the spaces, but if we take childcare providers, what would be a good percentage point by the end of 22?
Just for clarity, of opting in, is that what you're asking?
Of opting in, yes.
Yeah. It's a very hard thing to answer, because I feel like in my parent mind would be like, we want all of them. We want everyone to jump in, because our service plan talks about the need for us to unite and build this system together. So we want to do that collectively together. We want to build this system. This is what we've said in our service plan. So there's going to be a bit of a leap of faith for people because there's not going to be information, but we've always talked about in our service plan of the need to get consistency in our sector and the need to have consistent service levels. Like, this is what we want to do. We're not going to do that, in 2 months' time to get people up and running on this system, but that's the work we're going to have to do over the next 5 years on this system, is to do that. So my hope is that because this is so important for families, that service providers see this and they realize the benefits that can come from it. I do understand their questions and their fears of not knowing, because we're all in that same boat. Like, we don't know what the next few years are going to be with these different phases, but because it means so much to families and we know how important it is with rising inflation costs and everything families are up against, that this is so vitally important that I would like to see everyone jump into this system.
I hear you, and I don't want to lose focus, but our responsibility is to understand these system issues. What would be, let me throw a number, would 50% of the childcare providers jumping in 22 be a success? And that's not your fault. Let's to be clear here, that this is the way the province is doing it. I want to understand as a parent, I want to understand as a member of CPS, like, what would be a fair range? And I'm just trying to understand from your DNA, working with the sector, who might opt in, who might opt out. People are waiting on the second phase that you described. Are you figuring that 1 and 2 will jump in? Is it less than that? Is it maybe more than that?
Yeah, it's so through the chair, a bit difficult for me to give you a number, but based on my knowledge of the sector and what the strengths of Ottawa are and the partnerships that we have, the majority of providers in Ottawa are not-for-profit, and we partner with them already. I would expect that they come into this system because we collectively built that service system plan. So I would hope that most of our existing partners come along, and that would be success for me.
Okay, fair. You know what? I'd have a bunch of other questions, but it's late. So Jason, I appreciate it. I think I hope we stay pristine to the plan of one-stop shop for parents, that the system becomes more accountable to those vacancies and offers parents that flexibility. And through that the providers do jump in and opt in so that parents can get the benefits. And I'm confident that you and your team, if there is shortfalls in operational funds and staffing, in salaries and so on, that you not only will you be there, but also you'll make sure that the province understands those system transformation issues. So thank you.
We also have to understand that there are significant disincentives for unlicensed childcare providers who may be ECEs or previously have been ECEs to opting into this program, which makes it very difficult moving forward. And you're right to raise those, Councillor Fleury. Councillor Cavanaugh, please.
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief because I have to leave in about 5 minutes, but it's been a long day. But thank you, Jason. I wanted to take this opportunity because I know how hard you've worked and how long you've been waiting for this. So you've been preparing for this, you and your staff, and how important this will be to parents across Ottawa. My question is, in terms of possible capital investments in the future of future municipal centers. We still have high need areas. We've talked about this in the past, and I just want to know where that would fit in.
So, Chair, just to clarify, you're specifically talking about municipal childcare centers?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, growth overall will largely be dictated by the province of what's their plan around this 86,000. There has been instances in the past where they've gone that school's first route, and then there's the sometimes an opportunity with community-based. We don't have information from that. Outside of the provincial funds, obviously I would be looking from direction from council on if you want to grow municipal childcare and including that in any city term of council priorities or budgets to give us that direction to increase municipal childcare should that need arise.
Thanks. Anyway, thanks for all your work. We'll talk further later.
Thank you very much. Councillor Meehan, please.
Thank you. I forgot I had my hand up. I'm just wondering, I'm just getting up to steam on this issue. Thank God I've got my kids through the system. What would be the disincentive for a licensed daycare provider to not opt into the program?
Chair, through you, some of the concerns that have been raising have been around government's oversight. I mean, obviously this is public funding, so there will be a lot more reporting requirements and scrutiny of how funds are spent. So that is one concern that I've been seeing around opting into this system. Some sector people are raising quality concerns because we don't know what the future will hold, so if they change some quality aspects. And those are the pieces that for me, I do not know yet. We don't know. We know what this phase one is. We don't know what the future will hold. But I have seen some people talk about the quality concerns of what does this system have.
But at the same time, the provider, I'm assuming the location, the staff they have would not be different, right?
Sorry, Chair, can I ask just for clarity?
Just like for let's say it's a private daycare center, and there's 5 children in it. They opt into the system, and the parents get the reduced childcare fee. Wouldn't the location stay the same and the childcare workers stay the same, or we're moving everything?
No, I mean, really in the first phase, that's as simple as it is. That's all the stuff that stays. I think there are some potential like service level differences across the sector. And we talked about that in our service plan to say, well, how do you get consistency? I do like sometimes to use the school analogy here of, all schools have the same service levels. And if we're trying to build a system, there could be quality changes in the future to get that consistency and tell parents what they can expect out of this system. So we don't know that yet. We're very focused this year on just the phase one implementation, but I think people are, with that uncertainty that the province hasn't provided for future phases, people are concerned about what this could mean.
Well, if they don't opt in, those parents that have their children there are not going to get the reduction in their fees. So I would assume there's going to be some pressure on the provider to do that. So, or the parent will go someplace else, I'd assume. Okay, but is that your assumption too?
That is correct. I mean, again, parents, this economy, in Quebec, like Quebec is often used as this kind of benchmark. But in Quebec, there is, more or less a two-tiered model where they have the subsidized system, and then they have kind of like the private, like let's call it the private school kind of analogy, right? Like there's 2 markets that parents can go to. So it will kind of create that if some people don't opt in, that they have that might be their niche market. They can run the business like that. So those are the concerns. Parents, I think, would obviously look for the more affordable options when they can, and that would be this Canada-wide system trying to get to a $10 a day system.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any further questions to staff on this item? Is this item received and carried?
Yeas and nays.
Yeas and nays have been called. Can you call the roll, please, Joey?
Yes, just 1 second, Chair.
What's the purpose of that? Is that to show who's here at the end?
Absolutely. We've been working hard and staying all day. We deserve to have our name recorded.
After going on 11 hours.
Yep.
10 hours, 58 minutes, and 50 seconds.
But who's counting?
There's a song that starts with numbers like
I
that.
am. So let's get going. I'm counting.
Councillor Deans. Councillor Dudas.
Yes.
Councillor El Shantiri.
Yes.
Thanks, Eli.
Conseiller Fleury.
Oui.
Councillor Kavanaugh. Councillor Kitts. Councillor McKenney.
Yes.
Councillor Meehan.
Yes.
Councillor Tierney.
Yes.
Vice Chair Egley,
Yes.
and Chair Luloff.
We.
We have 9 yeas.
Thank you very much. Do we have any notices of motion to be considered at a subsequent meeting? Seeing none, do we have any inquiries? Other than the ones that were deferred? Any other business? Seeing none, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Yes.
Is that motion
Yes.
carried?
Yes.
Very.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much for sticking around for this committee and for ensuring that this delegated authority is provided to staff. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Truly
Thanks,
appreciate it.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Get a rest. Bye-bye.
Take care.
I'm here.